Yes, good morning. It's 9. Yes, 9. The clocks have gone back an hour. Yeah,
They went back? Did you have a good lie-in?
I actually didn't. I had to go up in the middle of the night to drive my son and his girlfriend to the airport.
Oh, I rolled over. I had another hour. It was lovely. Delicious.
Anyway, what makes today even better is tomorrow's a bank holiday. Yes! 12 weeks we waited for this bank holiday. It's been a long time. And you know what the next bank holiday is? Don't want to say it?
No,
but you
can't
know
mention it just yet. Anyway, coming up, we take a look at how the parties are shaping up in the latest Red C poll ahead of the election, and we've the latest on the Brian Stanley complaint. We look at the papers in around 15 minutes' time.
In sport, we'll take a look back at the rugby and soccer, as well as looking ahead to today's big game across the pond in the Premier League between Arsenal and Liverpool.
Sorry, did you watch the match yesterday?
Which one? Yes, I was keeping an eye on that one, and I only got glimpses of the Munster game.
Yeah.
I was on the radio, so we had to give the updates. But yeah.
Matches. Anyway, in fashion, we're taking on autumnal trends that work hard for your wardrobe between now and the summer holidays.
Oh, no, that's putting a bit of heat into a cold October day. Talking about summer already. Lovely. We're meeting the unstoppable 75-year-old super grand who's run an incredible 999 marathons. That was until about 30 seconds ago when she began her 1,000th. Yes, the Dublin Marathon has just kicked off. You'll find out how I got on training with Collette a bit later.
You're training now, you're not running.
Oh, no, there was a bit of running involved.
Oh, really?
There was a bit of running involved.
Okay.
And this lady, incredible. You'll see her later.
Yeah, incredible story. All right, singer Bambie Thug joins us to talk witchcraft, their Eurovision experience and their upcoming projects. New video released on YouTube, premiered yesterday as well. Absolutely incredible. That's all coming after 11. We look forward to that one.
And we'll be diving into some spooky Halloween science experiments that you and the family can try at home this scary season.
All right, let's check in on your Sunday papers now, starting with the front page of the Sunday Independent, and it reads, "Woman in Stanley complaint, Sinn Féin is protecting itself." Now, the paper goes on to report that the woman whose complaint led to an internal inquiry into the former Sinn Féin TD Brian Stanley has accused the party of protecting itself by referring the case to An Garda Síochána without consulting her.
On the front of the Business Post this morning, it leads with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are on track for an overall majority. It writes that the two parties are on course to return to government without the need for the Green Party, with support for the two parties combined now at 43%.
The Sunday Times opens with coalition split on housing as election looms. It reports that Fine Gael and the Greens accuse Fianna Fáil of refusing to approve housing targets for the next 5 years.
On to the tabloids, and the Irish Mail on Sunday leads with the public no longer feel safe in our cities. It writes that Taoiseach Micheál Martin has revealed that he wants Fianna Fáil to take over the Department of Justice and to set up a new dedicated transport police force if successfully returned after a general election.
The Sun on Sunday opens with the headline, "Cops told Kyran is dead." The paper reports that at least one person from Kyran Dernan's family has come forward and told cops the 8-year-old is dead.
And the Irish Sunday Mirror leads with catfish killer should get death penalty. It reports that catfish killer Alexander McCartney deserves the death penalty, a friend of his schoolgirl victim said yesterday.
The Sunday World puts Stevie G's cousin in bomber gun plot on its front page. It writes that convicted cocaine dealer Uncle Bobby Gerard helped Kavanagh hatch bizarre bid to reduce sentence after meeting in UK prison.
All right, that's your papers. It's Bank Holiday Sunday. It's the October one, which means that people are on the streets even as we speak.
As we speak, the 43rd Dublin Marathon is up and running. It's incredible. 22,500 people taking part this morning.
I think the only one missed was during COVID.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. The wheelchair participants, Martin, kicked off at 8:40 this morning.
Yeah.
Already up and running, and the first group of them went out at 9. So it's an incredible day.
But it takes in so much of the city as well. So for anybody who's trying to drive around Dublin today, good luck to you. You might have to roll a couple of double sixes.
Yeah.
Because the city is closed up. Because it is a celebration as well.
Yes, and I did it. In fact, look, I have a little medal. Look.
Oh, look at him.
Would you look at here now? I did it back in 2013.
Tell the truth, you did the last 3 kilometres. You just jumped over the fence.
I jumped in, yeah. It's very difficult. It's very hard. It's a very hard run. And even though all the training, that goes into it, it's still hard. But the support en route, Martin, is incredible. I mean, people line the streets. They're out, throwing sweets to you and helping you out, giving you all that amazing support. It's incredible, really. And it really drives you on, you know.
Yeah. No, it absolutely does. But, not everybody is an elite runner.
No.
And there are people who will be on that 26-mile course for a few hours. And their supporters will stay out waiting for them to come in just to give them their support.
And that's the beautiful thing about the marathon. And of course, we have a couple of people from here running it today.
It's true.
And we want to give a big shout out to the Dublin front runners. They're taking part this morning. And our own cameraman, in fact, Mark Armstrong. There is Mark. Look at him there in the white T-shirt. I work with Mark every morning out on the road.
Yeah, well, the fella has done his penance and then he decides to go and do a marathon.
Mark is
guaranteed his place in heaven, that man.
He's hoping to do it in 3 hours, 10 minutes, he told me. Okay. Yes, I had a run with him actually on Saturday morning and he's flying it. Also, we have Jill Mongie. Jill is our PA and floor manager and it's her first time ever running a marathon. So, Jill, hopefully we have a photo, maybe we don't. But anyway, it's her first time taking part this morning. Okay. So she's part of the 22,500, which is great. Good
luck to you, Jill. Good luck to you, Mark. Good luck to everybody taking part in the marathon today. Get out and support them if it's coming around your way.
Absolutely.
Brian Stanley is back on the front pages today. After the break, we'll take a look at that story and find out how the parties are faring ahead of next month's election. Are we already calling it ourselves? I think we are.
November 29, perhaps.
We'll see you in a minute. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are virtually neck and neck as we head into the election, and Sinn Féin's popularity continues to fall amid more Brian Stanley headlines this morning.
Joining us now, our assistant editor with the Irish Daily Mail, Linda Maher, and Ian Guider from the Business Post to talk through some of the stories making today's Sunday papers. And we'll start off, Ian, I suppose, with the story that's making the headlines. The Brian Stanley alleged misconduct back in October last year. It really has been a thorn in the side for Sinn Féin now. 3 weeks the story is running.
Yes, and it will probably run for a little bit longer because nobody is in agreement as to what happened here or how this was handled. Was it done correctly or incorrectly? And the woman at the centre of this story has given an interview to Maeve Sheehan in the Sunday Independent today, and there's also an account of it in the Irish Mail on Sunday as well. And she goes in depth as to what happened that night on her account of it. Brian Stanley, of course, strenuously denies any allegations, but the woman gives the details of she met Brian Stanley, she had known him for a long time, they had drinks in Leinster House and some food, went to have some drinks elsewhere in Dublin, and that she ended up in his hotel room. And she does confirm that the next day, she was shocked at, at what happened, and that the day after that, she contacted Brian Stanley and says she was impulsive and she wanted to scare him, and that she sought €60,000 be paid by Deputy Brian Stanley. He then wrote a text back saying that he said there was nothing had happened and nothing he ever wanted to do, and that he then contacted his solicitors about it, saying that this could be a legal matter. The issue seemed to rest there, but the woman said she was feeling horrible about what went on and that she wanted to get control of it again, and made the complaint to Sinn Féin in late July of this year. And then this seems to have sparked a whole other controversy about how Sinn Féin dealt with it.
And Linda, obviously Stanley has now resigned, so where are we at now in terms of this case?
Yeah, so Sinn Féin held an internal inquiry, and he felt, they said that it kind of sided with the woman and that accepted her account of things. He resigned. The woman, Sinn Féin then handed it over to Gardaí, which the woman had no idea that was happening. The first she knew was when she got a text to say that happened. So she's a bit kind of torn into, this, as far as, she didn't think it was a criminal case as such, it was more just a personal case. So we're now at the point where Stanley has resigned, and the matter's with the Gardaí. I don't know that there is a case for the Gardaí to investigate here. So the party have handled it very, very badly, and it's just another kind of on a list of things they've handled badly over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, this lady is saying that Sinn Féin acted the way they did to protect themselves and didn't really consider her.
Yeah, that seems to be what she's implying. And, I think Sinn Féin they're caught in this thing where if they don't move quickly, then they're lambasted for that. If they do move quickly, then this kind of thing seems to happen. Then so there does seem to be a bit, but look, at the same time, in what was likely to be an election year, who can blame them for trying to protect themselves? But as things have happened in the past, they have to remember that there are victims in all these things, and those people have to be protected and have to be looked after. But yet, where Stanley goes from here is going to be very interesting, I think, over the next few weeks.
Ian, this doesn't bode well now for Sinn Féin with an election looming potentially at the end of next month.
Yeah, they certainly don't want this story to be dragging on and on and on, because it's not going to resolve itself, given that Brian Stanley and the woman have two different accounts of it. It has gone to the An Garda Síochána, and of course you've also got the Sinn Féin controversy in Northern Ireland surrounding the reference to a former employee who was then convicted of sexual assault charges. Now, all of this is coming at a time of an election where Sinn Féin should be challenging the government on issues around housing, where it has made a running in the last number of years, the health system and the cost of living. It can't get onto those issues because it's on the back foot for how it has dealt with these cases. And until it can find a narrative to say, look, we've dealt with this, people have been treated fairly, they're not going to be able to. And you still have Deputy Brian Stanley. Well, will he be contesting the next election as an independent candidate up in Laois? Sinn Féin certainly won't want that, given where they are in the polls.
Yeah, and let's move on to that, because the Red C poll is out today, and from where they were last year, Sinn Féin had 32% on the last Red C poll. It's now down to 17.
17, yeah, it is. It's a shocking drop for them. And, you know, the timing of it is absolutely horrific for them. So we have Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael now at a point where they can, but they can probably take a majority without the Green Party, is what we're looking at now. So they're looking at being able to take, so they're running, sorry, I have my numbers marked.
I think Fine Gael are 22.
Are 22,
and
yeah.
Fianna Fáil at 21%. Yeah.
So, but it's the numbers that they can take together to make up to make up a government, and they won't need anybody else in with them, and that's, you know, change. Nothing changes at all.
So there's been that 15% drop for Sinn Féin. Only 3% of that has gone towards the two leading parties. So the other 12%. That other 12%, is that going to be spread around independents?
It is. It's splintering. You can see it now that you look at the poll today. The Greens have gone down again. The Social Democrats are down a little bit, but it's all pretty much going. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil are getting 3% of that, and the independents, the various groups of independents out there, are getting that extra vote. And as the Business Post poll says today, the two government parties, if they transfer to each other, could get a majority. If they don't, they could still need some other party. I don't think it will need a Labour or a Social Democrats.
So you think they're going to rope in the independents?
I think they'll only need the independents, and the real horse trading, if Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are close together, is who becomes Taoiseach first in the next government? Because Simon Harris has only been in the role a couple of months, and if they are neck and neck in seats at the end of this, will he want to give it up?
Well, there's 18 ministers that are going to step away, 18 TDs at the end of this government's life. So, but Simon Harris's popularity is it's very clear. There's been a bounce.
Yeah, and I think he has been very good. I think his attitude is very good. He's very good media-wise. I think he's very good on the ground. I think the strategy will be interesting now because of the transfers, because they do want to get each other's transfers. So you don't want to start slating the other party now, because you want to, you know, be able to say, oh, well, if we can kind of keep them sweet and we start getting a few transfers here. So I think the strategy over the next few weeks is going to be fascinating.
But they are sniping at each other. They're now talking about housing. Micheál Martin saying that if they form another government together, that he wants Fianna Fáil to have the justice portfolio.
Yes, that's the Mail on Sunday story, and it's very interesting. He's talking about law and order, and he's talking about having more Gardaí, and that Fianna Fáil traditionally have been very tough on crime. And that is obviously a dig at Helen McEntee, the current Justice Minister. But then you can turn this around and say, well, Fianna Fáil sat in Cabinet for the last number of years. Where has your support been for Helen McEntee on the justice issue? So you could see the parties trying to maybe have a little go, but they've been neck and neck around that table for so long now.
Ian, 40,000, that was the number of homes due to be built. I mean, that was thrown out by Darragh Breen the other evening. I mean, is there substance behind it? We're only at what? How many? 20?
Well, this is the other
21,000.
Yeah, this is the other big story, and that's the Sunday Times saying, you know, the government really don't want to set a new housing target, or Micheál Martin doesn't. And the reason why is people just say, well, how are you going to build this new target when you couldn't build the homes that you promised? You promised 40,000. We've delivered only 21,000 this year. You had the record homelessness number coming out the other day. Housing is the government's weak point. I was talking about this on radio during the week. A lot of people were promised extra homes this year, and they haven't appeared, and that will come up on the doorsteps.
Linda, Ian, thanks for joining us today.
Carmilla.
OK. It's all about rugby and football after the break, when we take a look at the back pages. We'll be talking sport after this break.
And welcome back now. Stylist Laura Jordan joins us in studio and she's brought some of her favourite party picks this morning.
Absolutely. Christmas is on its way. Dare I say it?
Did you mention Christmas?
I know. So we want to get prepared. The Sparkle is arriving in stores and we have a beautiful selection this morning, all from Carrickdone.
All right. Who's our first one this morning?
Starting with Sarah, who has the quintessential Christmas Day dress. So I always think red is the colour of the 25th of December, and this is a winner. For a start, it's a shift style, it's a classic silhouette, it's nothing that is super tight on the tummy if you're wanting to be able to relax for the day in it. And the details we've put with it are simple. Because the dress does the talking, we've just gone for the classic earring that's in that pearl finish. Again, you're going to have it for years. It's not trend. It is most definitely something that is going to be in the wardrobe, ready to be pulled out year and year again. What I love about this dress, apart from the cut and the shape, it has pockets, number one, but also the detail, the brooch detail was at the start. It is your jewellery, it is your accessory. So therefore, the simple pieces such as the bag, they just are the addition. They're not the focus. And to note as well that the details on that brooch can be removed. So if you're washing it, a lot of the time people would worry about how am I going to, is that dry clean only now with the brooch on it? No, you can remove it and wash it. And then this clutch bag has got a strap inside if you want to wear it. It's crossbody or have it for out and about as well.
It's quite a simple look, right? But I love that touch of diamante sparkle at the top. It's gorgeous, right?
It just brings it literally reflects that light and sparkle up to the face, which is always a good one, particularly if you're, it's December, you've maybe had a busy month and just want a little bit of extra help. That is always the way to do it, is to add a bit of sparkle near the face. And then the cap sleeve, the simple cut, and the length, which is, it almost has, the hem has almost got a little bit of weight to it, which is important. And it works as we have it here with the black tights, but you could do a bare leg if you're feeling a little bit more adventurous.
Laura, this is quite a short one on the arm, so if people don't want to expose their arms as much, what would you recommend?
I'd love a velvet tux jacket over that. I think it would be gorgeous. Or even if you wanted to dress it down a little bit, like a leather jacket over it for a girl's night out, or a dance would be perfect. And similarly with the simple pairing of the shoes, we've gone classic with a small heel, but you could equally do like a block finish, a little ballet shoe would be gorgeous as well. So there's a lot of options in terms of mixing that up for different occasions over Christmas.
All right, our next look.
Our next look, this is an ideal wedding guest for the festive season. So again, it's a popular time for weddings and other family celebrations, like red tie, should I say, or black tie, even red's on the mind after the last look, or even a simple, New Year's Eve party. This is such a glamorous look. For the jewellery, again, huge selection in store and online, as all of the pieces are. And just to have that little unusual finish, changing the accessories from one look to the next makes the look different and gives it longevity and stretches it. This Reno Pell jacket is exclusive to Carrickdone. It is incredibly soft. To note again, you probably can't see that at home, but it's a beautiful touch, and it just adds that little bit of glamour to a simple dress.
This dress is all about the neckline. Stunning.
Absolutely. I was about to pull off the jacket. The cowl neck, again, a lot of people say, oh, I'm not sure about the cowl neck. Cowl neck has to be worn with that particular cut on the sleeve. The cap shoulder, the cinched waist. So if you have a cowl, you must have a cut underneath it, because otherwise too much fabric and not enough cut underneath, and then it just falls. And it is, again, available in an olive tone, but this just oozes like almost Hollywood glamour to me. And for the price point, I think it's a really good option. Similarly with the bag, it's a piece of jewellery in itself, and it finishes that look absolutely beautifully, but similarly could work with jeans and a black top heading out, for something more casual, and it could be your pop piece on a look.
What type of fabric is that, by the way, the dress?
This, again, it's a poly blend.
Okay.
So what's helpful about that is it doesn't crease as badly as something like satin or silk will.
You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
And you can wash it.
Okay, so you can steam it as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
that's
Sarah.
the key when you're on the go. And again, to have, if we've got red dress, we want to also cover it off with green as well. This is a beautiful emerald rich tone as pulled out here in the colour of the earrings. So again, just having that little drop, it catches the light. When you've got movement on an earring, it lets the light catch it, particularly when there's stones in it. And you can see the match on the pendant there. So a great gift option as well if you're looking for, thinking ahead for your Christmas gifting list. This jacket over the dress dresses it down a little, or makes it very evening wear, evening appropriate, but you could easily have it with, again, a jacket, a velvet velvet piece to it, or even just a simple tuxedo jacket would be gorgeous over it. So again, we're always looking for versatile options with dresses. I want to see that it can be glammed up with a bare leg as we have here, or that it can be dressed down with tights and boots even. It's got a long sleeve, which a lot of people like, because you're not having a shorter sleeve, you're not worried about that. You don't need a jacket, but you can have one if you choose. And the bow detail, which you've just seen, fabulous.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And that
It
just
really
ties it all
does.
in.
It literally does.
Would you put a
ties it all
belt with this?
I wouldn't, because the fabric is very thin and it's clingy. So if you do put a belt with it, and you'd want to be really thin, almost like a gold, almost a chain belt could work, but otherwise I'd let it fall as is. And then the details that I would consider putting with that is, again, those thick tights, those simple, even like a chunky platform boot, I think would work, or a knee-high boot if you had it.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
I was going to say, if you got a gust of wind.
Yeah, exactly.
You need knee-high boots.
You would.
Right?
You would.
Okay, and finally, our fourth look here this morning.
Again, when we always think of Christmas, we think of stars and sparkle, and we have to have something to reflect that. So we have this beautiful look here. Again, in the jewellery, we've kept it simple in the earring, and we've just added a little bit of thickness in the neckline and with the stone, because we have a V-neck dress. It allows us to really let a feature be made out of the necklace. In terms of the jacket over it, this is a beautiful quilted bomber jacket available in multiple colours on the website, and this would be fab with literally a t-shirt and jeans. And what we've done here, it is, and it's so soft, and it's thick as well, so it's warm. And what we've done with it here is we've let it be the jacket piece, the over piece for this dress. And the dress, for many reasons, ticks boxes for me. It's V-neck, good if you have a bigger bust. It's got a sleeve, which we like. It can be adjusted. So here we have it as a 3/4 length. You could put the sleeve into the crook of your arm and create a shorter sleeve. And again, it's got the belt piece to it here, which you can choose where you want that to sit and how tight or loose you want it to be. Great for Christmas time. And you could, as you mentioned, this is a one for a belt.
And I mean, you could bring this higher up your bust then if you wished.
It'd be fabulous if you just had a different style or type of belt, just to change the occasion from one to the other. And this is a similar bag to we saw previously, except in a darker colorway. So again, depending on the occasions, etc., this is a great option for that. And as we said, change it up, tights, put a pair of boots with it, and you're perfect for a day out. So it's got that versatility, and that's what we like in all pieces that we've seen this morning. Carrick Done.
My favourite look this morning, I think, was, Sarah in the green dress.
I knew you were going to say that.
I love that one.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
And again, it's covered off, whether it's Christmas Day, you've weddings invitations coming in, or that all-important Christmas party night out your set.
All right, every angle covered. Thank you so much, Laura. Now, still to come this morning, we have a Moroccan treat in the kitchen. Plus, Eurovision icon Bambie Thug is stopping by. Stay with us. We're back in 3. We're still talking about the marathon here.
Yeah.
I want you to run the marathon.
Well, you can want all you want. I wouldn't even drive the marathon.
All right, it's almost 10 o'clock, and if you're not at the Dublin Marathon today, don't worry, we've got our own fun-filled marathon of a show lined up just for you.
But there's lots of fun in it involved. With the clocks going back an hour last night, yes, that's why you got the extra on bed, but we've got top tips to help you beat the grogginess and stay energised as the darker months roll in. And I tell you what, the kids are waking up an hour earlier today in many households. We'll have tips on how you can sort that out.
All right, we'll be hearing from the Super Gran, who's on track to complete her 1,000th marathon. It's an incredible story today. She's currently an hour into her run. Fair play to her.
Do you know what? She's got 10 more marathons lined up.
Does she?
She has 10 more marathons lined up.
What a
so
story.
She ain't stopping.
No.
At 6th place this year, they're the reason we received our highest placing in Eurovision since the year 2000. Bambie Thug will be stopping by.
What an incredible performance at the Eurovision.
Brilliant.
Really look forward to seeing them.
Brilliant.
Yep, absolutely. And what's a little bit of hocus pocus without a potion? And we'll be trying out some spectacular Halloween science experiments that'll make you scream with delight.
It will keep the kids entertained as well. We're heading into mid-term, so we need to keep the kids entertained. We also need to keep them fed.
Yes.
And we can smell something spectacular going on in the kitchen from Chef Lizzie Lyons. How are you, Lizzie?
I'm great, how are you?
And you got your Halloween colours on.
I know, it's autumnal.
Oh, sorry, autumnal. All right. What are you making for us?
I am making a beautiful autumnal chicken tagine, and we're adding in some extras like olives and feta cheese and pomegranate and some preserved lemon. Very fancy for Halloween.
Lemon. Okay.
You hungry?
I'm starving. My stomach thinks my throat's being cut.
All right, let's check in on your Sunday paper, starting with the Sunday Independent, and its front page reads, Woman in Stanley complains. Sinn Féin is protecting itself. The paper goes on to report that the woman whose complaint led to an internal inquiry into the former Sinn Féin TD Brian Stanley has accused the party of protecting itself by referring the case to An Garda Síochána without consulting her.
The front of the Business Post this morning leads with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil on track for an overall majority. It writes that the two parties are on course to return to government without the need for the Green Party, with support for the two parties combined now at 43%.
The Sunday Times opens with coalition split on housing as election looms. It reports that Fine Gael and the Greens accuse Fianna Fáil of refusing to approve housing targets for the next 5 years.
On to the tabloids. In the Irish Mail on Sunday, it leads with the public no longer feel safe in our cities. It writes the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, has revealed that he wants Fianna Fáil to take over the Department of Justice and to set up a new dedicated transport police force if successfully returned after a general election.
The Sun on Sunday opens with the headline, Cops told Kyran is dead. The paper reports that at least one person from Kyran Durnan's family has come forward and told cops the 8-year-old is dead.
The Irish Sunday Mirror leads with catfish killer should get death penalty. It reports that catfish killer Alexander McCartney deserves the death penalty, a friend of his schoolgirl victim said yesterday.
And finally, the Sunday World puts Stevie G's cousin in bomber gun plot on its front page. It writes that convicted cocaine dealer Uncle Bobby Gerard helped Kavanagh hatch bizarre bid to reduce sentence after meeting in UK prison.
Well, as you would have seen on the news, and we've been talking about it ourselves across the morning, you've been flashing your medal.
I'm not letting this baby go.
Never a day goes by without a daily flash from Derek of some sort.
No.
But yeah, lots of people running the marathon today. It started an hour ago.
Yes,
just over an hour ago. But yeah, there's a few people within the Virgin Media TV camp who are getting involved today. We spoke about Mark earlier, but also Jill Mongy, who there she is.
Ah, look at Jill.
Getting herself set to do the marathon today. So
picture of
we
happiness.
That was before it started.
What would she look like after the marathon?
That's what we want to say. We want a picture after the event.
No, you always get the picture before the event, Mark, never after.
Yeah, just the shot in the A&E. When it's all
Can't out. All right, we've lots of pics coming in, and we want to send best wishes and best of luck to Andrew and Kim today. They're there running for motor neuron disease in memory of Andrew's aunt Eileen. That comes in from Geraldine.
A lot of people doing the marathon today to raise money for different causes and for
great causes.
Very, very personal reasons. Best of luck to my hubby Matty. Myself and the kids want to send him all the very best. That comes from Annette. Well, he's we know what his target is. Number one.
That's it. Best of luck to my hubby, Andrew Dalton, running the Irish Life Dublin Marathon today. You'll smash it. And that's love from Marion, Abby and Mia and all the gang there tuned in. He looks fantastic there at the starting line, doesn't he?
Yeah. All good to go. Best of luck to all at Road AC, I assume that's Athletics Club in County Offaly, who are taking part in the Dublin City Marathon. And that comes,
Look at them all from Noling.
It's a few action shots there as well.
Yeah, I love that.
And they're wearing the Offaly colours as well. The green on them too.
Also, Mark from Finglas is taking part in the Dublin Marathon for Women's A today. We are so proud of him. Look at Mark, they're all kitted out. Bit of a chill in the air out there this morning as well, Martin.
Just a slight chill, all right, but you got the extra hour's sleep last night, didn't you? You certainly did.
So that should make up for it. That comes in from Linda and all the kids as well. OK,
now there are some people who are kind of saying that they would like to run the marathon. Sean said he would run the marathon, but he doesn't have the time because it's the lap of honour. That would kind of, just add the extra few hours to his day.
Yeah,
it's too hard to do a lap of honour, Sean. You do. I'm with you.
You can milk it. I'm milking it for 11 years. Also, hi, Derek and Martin. Would you send best wishes to Sinead Walsh-Moore? That's Oisin's wife. The very best for today's marathon, as you know, an amazing woman. That comes in from Oisin. Oh, yes. So Adele Moore, and that's Oisin, our cameraman.
Yes,
as well.
Sinead.
So Sinead, his wife, all the way in Cúnta na Galava. They're living out there.
OK, Sinead and everybody else involved in the marathon today, because we know people are coming not just from all over the country, but from different parts of the world to take part in the Dublin City Marathon. Good luck to all of you. And a great night of celebration, I'm sure, is ahead. Absolutely. Up next, with the clocks going back, we've got tips to help you sleep like a baby as winter approaches. Stay tuned.
Fáilte Rash, welcome back to Ireland AM now. While many of us has relished that extra hour of sleep in the lab this morning, for parents of young children, unfortunately, it's a whole different story, Martin.
Indeed, the time change can turn sleep schedules upside down, but fear not. Sleep expert Lucy Wolfe is here to rescue us all. Good to see you, Lucy.
Thank you.
I've got to tell you, I was on the phone last night to one of my sons and his 2-year-old. I asked, he just told me through gritted teeth, she went to bed at 6:45 last night. And I said, he said, you know what that means? Is yes, I'll probably be up about 5:30.
I know.
And they're the people I feel sorry for.
Yep.
Our other son has a 2-year-old as well. It's the young kids and their sleep schedules. Really
Predominantly, yes. And I guess, you know, there is, theoretically, we're going to get an extra hour, but all of us are going to lose, really, because, you know, you're going to have to go to bed later tonight.
Yeah.
To actually be able to get to sleep, and then likely have to get up early. If not Monday, by Tuesday you'll have to get up at your normal time. So as this week unfolds, we're all going to feel the effects of it in some shape or form, but absolutely the effect for a young child is going to be felt by them and the parent immediately today. Now again, I know there is lots of research that suggests that, you know, this adjustment in the circadian rhythm has a big impact on us. I try not to focus too much on that because it's inflammatory. I just try and deal with things in the moment. So the best thing that parents can do today, if they haven't prepared in advance, and I think that's okay if you haven't prepared in advance, I think today is to just go flexibly now. So whatever time they woke up at this morning, now work on, the clocks have all changed, you'll just work in between the old time and the new time, and you'll be mindful of it. And tonight at bedtime, you'll maybe go a whole hour later on the clock, or you might go halfway in between. It kind of depends on how the naps unfold.
Talk about the naps, because how should we be approaching the nap?
Kind of depends on what parents are currently doing. So some parents will have their child on a set time, and if they have them on a set time, they're probably going to need to adjust that a little bit because it's different to what it was yesterday. However, a lot of parents will be using the concept of a wake window, which is the estimate of how long a child stays awake for before they need to sleep again. So they just work off their normal awake time. So you know, if your baby is up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock and you work off a 2-hour wake window, they're going to need to sleep again within 2 hours.
Okay. So you know now I'm a big napper because of the 4 a.m. starts most mornings. I mean, what's the perfect napping window time-wise?
Well, for an adult, the suggestion, and again, there's always conflict around should we nap or not. You're not supposed to nap if it affects your nighttime sleep. But however, a nap is a good way of, like someone like yourself, getting your enough sleep, so taking it in 2 parts. So the suggestion is that somewhere between 12 and 2 is a good time to nap. And again, like that, how long you should nap for is always up for content. So I would normally say 40 minutes to an hour. After that, you're going to start to feel a little bit hungover potentially.
Yeah.
But again,
kind of like a truck hitch.
It can be, exactly. But like that, for people like yourself who are on shift work, for example, I know you're working early, it's a good way to capture your sleep in a 2-phase way. And I suppose for young children, they have a nap need up to age 3. So again, they'll be doing it. And again, just to speak to your question again, Martin, about how do parents with naps. So today you'll move flexibly with the nap. And then towards the week, as this week unfolds, like I always feel by Tuesday of this particular time change, it's business as usual. We're up because we're going to work or daycare. I know the schools are on midterm, but the real life kind of determines that we get back into the time on the clock. And for that reason, then I'm not moving as flexibly. I'm probably going closer to what you were doing, so that by the end of this week, we're very close to our sleep profiles, all of us, adults and children included.
OK, can you talk to us about bed rotting?
I can, and my daughter offered to come and be an expert witness today.
What is it?
She's age 20, by the way. It is where people spend a day or lots of hours in their bed.
Oh, I'm all on for that.
Generally scrolling on technology.
Okay, it's called bed rotting.
It's called bed rotting.
Is it wasting your life, is it?
Well, I suppose it's actually, depends on what way you want to look at it. We think we coined the term, but we absolutely didn't, like my family. But basically, it's twofold. It is probably a very good way to self-care. So as in decompress, take yourself out of the business of your life, and can be very good for managing, you know, stress and anxiety for a younger generation potentially, okay? And obviously, every practice comes with pitfalls and, you know, as well as the positives. So I can't believe you haven't heard of it.
No, but I think there's nothing wrong with a day in bed.
Yeah, I think it's...
I mean, if you're feeling it,
like,
and you
I think that if you feel about this generation, this younger generation, I don't know, like, I kind of feel like we've been taught to be busy. And, you know, if you're not active and you're not productive, and then you're not contributing. And I guess that whole mindset is shifting. And we look at self-care, you know, go for a walk, exercise, eat well. But actually rest and relaxation, restoring, we do it in different ways now because we've got different things available to us. However, okay, it's important that the bed rotter, okay?
Oh, is that what it is? The bed rotter?
I don't know. I know, but I actually think it's quite nice. Cute.
Are you a bed rotter? No, I actually get up and I go to the bathroom and then I'll get back into the bed.
So this is like you spend your day, you make a conscious decision, or you spend a few hours, or you come home and you decompress from a busy day. Yeah. Now, the problem around it, let's say from a sleep point of view, is that we don't normally like you to do things in the bed that don't just include sleep, because the brain often then gets wired or rewired to expect you to be doing other things like scrolling or chilling out in the bed, and that can lead to a level of confusion.
You could be reading as well, by the way.
You could. Yeah. It's just a self-care practice. It's got a horrible little title attached to it. But go on.
It's just a newer version of a duvet day.
It's a duvet day. It's exactly that. But Gen Z, if that's what they're actually called, right, they've given it this term. And again, on TikTok, you can see lots of examples of it and people doing it. The one thing I would mention, just like from my own therapeutic background, is that, you know, we be very careful that these sort of practices aren't masking something deeper. Like, you know, like this whole taking yourselves, you know, removing yourself from the world, if you like, and then leading to, you know, like if you're not getting up, you're not having your hygiene practices, you know, like if you're straying into. But again, if we take it as
if there's a pattern to that, though.
Exactly, you know what I mean? That. So,
not just a once-off.
Correct. And so I think that there's kind of suggestions that you do this like once, twice a month. Or I even like the idea of, you know, just doing it as maybe the day decompresses, like, you know, coming home from college or...
Could you bed rot once a week?
Like, I mean, I suppose this is the thing. I'm really up for anything that people are doing that then don't have a negative knock-on effect. So it's a bit like the nap. If you take the nap and it doesn't affect your sleep, brilliant way of getting enough sleep. If you rot in your bed, and it's a very good form of your self-care practice, and it isn't then leading to like an insomnia where you can't get to sleep or you can't maintain your sleep, then it's not a practice that's probably very good for you. But if you can have that balance, because, you know, part of it actually is, I know you said you read in the bed, but a lot of it is that they're mindlessly scrolling. Now, again, we have to embrace that. This is a way of relaxing. It's like a new way of relaxing, isn't it? To scroll.
Yeah, and actually that in fact brings us on to our next point. When should you turn off your phone in the labba?
Yeah, and I suppose, look, long-term studies have always kind of suggested, you know, 2 to 3 hours before sleep time. And then there was a recent study not so long ago that kind of suggested that, let's say phone use or screen time with young children was really minimally disrupted their sleep. So again, there's always, again, I would take it back to the individual. And where like adolescents are concerned, I think it's a good idea to have digital boundaries. But then the parent also has to have the digital boundary. Like, so we have to practice. So I think, you know, the hour before bedtime is a good idea. The exposure to light.
New light.
Yeah, I suppose, like, stimulating the waking part of the brain. And not just that, it can affect the quality of your sleep. So again, we measure sleep not just in the amount of sleep that you're getting, but in the quality of sleep, which is a very hard one to gauge. But again, how do you feel? Do you feel like you got enough sleep? Are you alert?
Yeah, you made reference to, like, lying in bed reading. If you're reading a book, that's fine. But it's that blue light on your phone as you scroll that will...
And it's not just the light, like, as well. So the light is having that impact, stimulating, like, that waking part of your brain. But also what you're exposing yourself sometimes can also send you into, like, a stimulated set where we're really looking to wind down, you know, where sleep comes to the fore. And I suppose I should have mentioned, but should have, you know, this whole time change piece. You know, we are challenging our body clock. And, you know, the use of morning light and then the corresponding evening light is really important to help regulate our body clock further. There's loads of evidence to support the, you know, the efficacy of morning light, and that it has a really good effect on getting to sleep with relative ease. But of course, then that is the light then in the evening time that often contributes to a delayed sleep onset. And that's what we're always looking at around that.
What's your opinion on sleeping apps?
Sleeping apps?
Very quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I don't have any. I would be of the mind, I'm inclined to support anything that helps you. But I guess I'm working with parents predominantly, and I see parents using apps and tracking things and becoming obsessed around the tracking. And that can have, a detrimental impact on your mood and well-being. I think anything that is, maybe it stimulates you to go to bed earlier, prioritise your sleep. I think anything like that is really positive.
Okay. All right. It's good to see you. We're getting the sleep sorted for everybody.
There you go.
I don't like the term bed rot. Duvet day. We're going to stick with that.
Duvet day.
Oh, I actually like the bed rotting, though.
Yeah,
It's kind
and
of funny.
I love the fringe, by the way.
Oh, thanks very much.
Brand new fringe.
Thanks
Anyway,
so much.
for more on Lucy's Sleep Solutions, head over to sleepmatters.ie.
Up next, a taste of Morocco. We're serving a chicken tagine after this break. Yes, thanks for sticking with us. Our taste buds have been tickling in anticipation, and now the wait is over.
Are you hungry?
Starving.
Starving, me too. Anyway, Chef
hungry.
Lizzie Lyons from Lizzie's Little Kitchen all the way down in County Kerry is with us now to whip up a mouth-watering chicken tagine right in the heart of your own kitchen. Good morning to you, Lizzie.
Good morning.
You haven't actually transferred your kitchen. You're using ours. Let's be honest.
Yes, just borrowing for the day.
And you've got your autumnal colours on.
My autumnal colours, yes.
I'd say Halloween, but you're saying autumnal. There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are Halloween.
Okay.
So we are making a lovely chicken tagine.
Yeah.
I'm using chicken thighs. They're really flavoursome. They're nice on a slow cook. And obviously they're budget friendly as well.
Yeah. Which is what we like to hear.
Exactly.
Now, this is a nice, by the way, North African, Moroccan dish,
Yes,
right?
yes. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get our spices on. And I always dry fry spices, so you just need a dry pan. And what we're doing is almost roasting up the spices in it because it'll enhance the flavour and there'll be a lovely nut with it. So we've got coriander, cumin and fennel seeds in there. And the fennel brings a lovely kind of licorice kind of...
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so we'll get them in there and we'll just let them toast away nicely. Now, inside here, I've started with the chicken thighs. So all I did was I seasoned them with salt and pepper and drizzled a little bit of oil on them and put them into a hot pan. So what we're doing is we're actually browning them. So you'll see that I'm getting a good colour on them. And this will keep the flavour in the chicken and keep it nice and moist. We're sealing it off almost to keep sealing.
Keep those juices
Exactly, yeah. So now we're going to get onto our base of the tagine, all right? If I was at home, what I would do is I would fry the chicken inside in this and then I would remove it from the pan and start with my base. But just for ease today.
For telly purposes.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I have my little bit of oil inside in the pan here. And this is an oven-proof casserole dish that I'll be able to put into the oven afterwards.
Okay.
I've some onion here.
There's a lot of onion there.
Yeah, it's one onion, one full onion.
They see the big onions down on this tall.
Massive onions.
Can't be the
I want to see the
onion.
carrots.
And we have some garlic and a little bit of ginger, all right?
Yeah. Okay.
That
And that
gives
goes
us a nice
onto a
little
hot
kick.
pan.
That goes onto a hot pan, yeah?
Yeah.
So we're just going to season with some salt and pepper. And we let that sweat off. So we're letting it sweat off. We're cooking down the onion, the garlic and the ginger, but we're not browning it, okay? So we'll give that a little bit of cover. So now you can almost smell that there, can you?
Yeah.
So this means that they are ready to go. And what I would do is I transfer them into a pestle mortar, or if you have like a grinder at home,
Okay.
and grind them up. And this is what we get in the end. So you have ground down your coriander, your cumin and your fennel. I have a little bit of saffron in there. We're putting in some cinnamon, and cinnamon always goes into kind of a tagine, yeah.
And it's
great
the time
for
of
it.
year for it as well.
Yeah. So we'll give those a good old mix around together there. And we have our base on. So now this is great. This base you can use, it's vegetarian, okay? So if you didn't want to use the chicken and you wanted to turn this into a vegetarian dish.
Swap it out.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a really, really great one. This is brilliant to let cool down, to transfer it into the freezer. You can freeze it down.
So
great.
you swap it out with
It's
tofu,
a really
mushrooms.
Exactly, really versatile dish. So now we have this on, and the next thing, we would leave this sweat down for about 5 minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we're getting in with our lovely, gorgeous spices.
That's a really nice way to do it, right? So you're actually grounding up your own ones.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, and do you know what?
Lovely.
If somebody's annoyed you, in the day or in the week. You get that pestle mortar and
go for it.
Go for it, yeah. It's almost like the day with the rolling pen. Do you remember the day we had the rolling pen and I was, yeah.
Who were you thinking of? Or can you say? No,
I would never
never reveal, never divulge that. Yeah.
So now, look, we're mixing all the spices through. If we had our chicken inside in here, we'd be moving up, scraping up the chicken pieces from the bottom as well, you know, the residue. Almost like deglazing, all right? Mm-hmm. And now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to get our cherry tomatoes. This is canned cherry tomatoes. If you didn't have it, you could use chopped tomatoes, you could use peeled plum tomatoes. We'll get that in there.
Really nice. So that adds a little bit of liquid to it as well.
Exactly, yeah. And now we're going in with our chicken stock. If you want to make this vegetarian, just replace with vegetarian stock.
How much are you adding in there?
750 mils I have on the recipe. If you want it a little bit thicker, you can reduce it down to probably about 500.
Well, it's going to reduce down in the oven anyway,
will,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm. So now we have a little bit of red wine vinegar.
It's red wine vinegar now, Derek. Don't be looking for the bottle. It's red wine vinegar.
And of course the honey,
nice.
to add the sweetness.
Yeah, nice. There's so many fine producers up and down the country as well.
Yes.
Fine honey producers, yeah.
So we'll bring that up. And the next thing I have is preserved lemons. So I've actually chopped this up already. But there's a lovely tanginess to it. Do you want to give it a sniff there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it grabs, yeah.
Good belt off that, isn't
it? Yeah.
Preserved lemon.
Preserved lemon. So you preserve the lemon in its own juices with a little bit of salt. You can buy it pre-bought in a jar in any good supermarket, but it's brilliant for a tagine and it's great to give depth and flavour to...
And it's a contrast as well.
Yes,
already
exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll get that in there. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to transfer our chicken in. We're just going to pop these on top.
So it's probably 3/4 way cooked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're putting it into the oven then. When it comes back up to the boil, you put your chicken in on top. And
already you can smell it.
Yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it?
I made this last night at home and the smell around the kitchen was just absolutely divine.
Was there anything left for you to bring up this morning?
We'll have to check. I left for a while. The lads could have torn into it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this into the oven at 160 to 170. Leave it low and slow. The chicken thighs will almost melt and we'll leave it in for about an hour, all right?
All right.
And
That's
I'll
me if
pop
I'm
that
on the
in there
marathon,
now.
low and slow. Slow and steady. This would be the perfect dish, actually, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Just finishing the marathon
lovely.
later on.
So now...
You can have one of your power naps while that's in the oven.
I can
that
rot in
Lucy
bed.
suggested.
Now, just 10 minutes before we're going to serve this, I've taken this out beforehand and I've just added in some olives and some fresh lemon in there, you'll see. And now we're going to serve this. I brought some lovely couscous up from the restaurant.
All right, gorgeous.
We've a little bit of feta cheese, so you've got saltiness.
You get no good out of us now, Lizzie.
Lovely fresh pomegranate, and we also have some herbs, all right?
OK, we've got about a minute left.
A minute.
I'm going to serve this up.
Yeah.
And this is a great one now for Sunday lunch.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, for any day.
Any day, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's so
we're
easy
going
to
to get
do,
that
right?
on. Really easy, very, very easy.
Now,
We'll
I
put
haven't
some-
had any breakfast yet, so I am starving.
So you're going first.
I'm like a horse. I eat anything.
We get a little bit of the feta onto it.
Here we go.
Saltiness. Now,
See.
Beautiful. Oh,
And
Lizzie, you'll be
these-
holding that back now. Throw it over
The
here.
little pomegranates.
this just kind of levels it up and gives it...
OK, Martin, pass that
Get
over.
that
No.
into you. Cynthia.
Oh, look at this.
No.
Now, that's just come out of the oven, so just be
It
mindful.
is
so
hopping.
hungry.
Absolutely hopping. And Martin, I suppose you'll have to...
Well, you know, just to be sociable, you know, you'd have to have a bit of it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I'd be fierce insulted if you didn't try it.
Well, you know that I will.
Yes.
Yeah, I will. In fact, I'm going to bring it home as well so that our ladyship can have some as well.
I'm eating the lemons and everything.
Are you a happy boy now?
I'm very happy.
All right, OK.
No.
All right, full
Lizzie,
recipe
good to see
details
you.
are
Always
up
good
on
to
our
see you.
website, or you can pop down to Lizzie's Little Kitchen in Stowe, beautiful County Kerry in the north of the county, and you'll be well looked after.
Now, don't go down today because Lizzie's in Dublin and it'll take a while before she gets home. But
Yeah.
coming up after the break, find out how I fared when Ireland's incredible marathon gran put me through my paces in a training session as she prepped for today's marathon. See you for that in a minute. Welcome back. We're well fed and we're happy.
I hoovered up that chicken tagine.
He literally, he licked the plate. I've never seen anyone lick a plate before, but he did today.
It was good.
Yeah. Welcome back. As the Dublin Marathon takes over the streets with 20,000 runners, one woman is on the verge of a truly remarkable milestone.
At 75 years, young Collette O'Hagan is about to complete, listen to this, her 1,000, I was going to say 100,000, 1,000 marathon today. Absolutely incredible.
Okay. And to learn more about the incredible Collette and her inspiring journey, I laced up my own running shoes and hit the pavement with her earlier in the week.
Try to be best, cause you're only a man, and a man's got to learn to take it. Try to believe, though the going gets rough, that you gotta hang tough to make it. History repeats itself, try and you succeed. Never doubt that you're the one, and you can have your dream. You're the best around.
All right there. You need help.
Yeah, I need a lot of help. How are you, Collette? You well?
All right, Martin.
Good to see you.
What's the crack? Fancy meeting you here.
Listen, I'm done. I'm wrecked. I've done a few stretches and I've done... You're getting ready for your 1,000th marathon.
Yeah, 1,000 on Sunday the 27th.
Congratulations first.
Thank you, Martin.
Are you excited about this?
Yeah, I am very excited actually, because I never thought I was going to reach 1,000, but I'm kind of a little bit overwhelmed as well, because I often think, like, this can't be me. And they're all talking about me, and I'm going, but it is actually. So it is my actual 1,000, dead on the button.
Okay. It's just, you're on 999.
Yeah, just done 999 last weekend.
Okay, we could be dialing 999 before we're finished.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I need the emergency, I got the number.
I might need it too. Probably need it more than you. Anyway, I am, and I'm going to say this very loosely, your training partner.
Okay, I shall train you
for
up.
today.
Do
So
you think you've reached 1,000 marathons, Martin?
I'd be doing well to reach 1,000 feet. So what have you got lined up for me?
I'd few stretches and stuff like that, and a little bit of a run. What about a little bit of a run?
Okay.
You try that.
Can we underline little?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let's get going.
Right, let's
Where are we
go.
going?
Down here. Okay.
Down here?
Yeah.
No, I've done a few stretches.
Okay, come on.
Okay,
Let's go.
all right. Now stick with me,
I will.
because I don't want to have to trip you up when you get away from me.
And the bass keeps running, running, and 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 running, running, and.
So what's your running streak at the moment?
At the moment, my running streak is 2,070 days, non-stop running.
What?
Yes.
2,070 days?
Yes. Yes, even on holidays.
You run on holiday?
Yeah, of course. Do you think I'm mad?
Bonkers. But look at you. You're in great shape.
Yes, I love running.
Okay. I'm struggling to get 2,070 feet done. So, if you don't mind, can we have a sit down
Yeah, of
and
course you
continue
can.
this conversation?
I mean, you can even have a wee lie down if you want.
I might need that. Well, thanks for sitting down. I don't know if I could have made it any further.
Are you exhausted?
Well, not quite exhausted, but feeling it a little.
But I have a feeling you'll be running soon.
You reckon?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I think
okay.
I'll get
Well,
the
we'll wait and see.
Okay, Martin.
Can I ask you, when did this idea of 1,000 marathons come into your mind?
Well, you don't actually set out to do 1,000 marathons, obviously, but last year I had done my 900 marathon, and I thought, oh yeah, the 1,000's not too far away then, so I reckoned that Dublin had to be where I was doing my 1,000 marathon, because I started my running journey in Dublin. So I set out a plan for Dublin this year, and now here I am on 999 and ready to do my 1,000. So it's becoming a reality now.
you're turning this marathon pink as well, is this true?
I am, yeah. As many people as possible could wear pink. I did get t-shirts, but I actually run out of t-shirts. I didn't think anybody would be too interested in turning it pink, but obviously there is. So we're going to turn Dublin City Marathon pink on 27th of October.
And for two great causes.
Two great causes, yeah.
None of this happens, like for you to reach 1,000 marathons, for you to do all this running as you have,
yes,
2,070 consecutive days, you need support as well. So what's the support like around you?
Well, my family's a great support, and my husband in particular is very good support, but some of my kids who also run as well. But a great camaraderie too with my running friends. So you have a running family and your own family, so that's where I get my support. I love meeting up with my running friends, and obviously my family are great support for me. My daughter Jacqueline is going to be running the marathon with me, and she's actually going to be my pacer. So she'll crack the whip if I stop to talk or anything to anybody. So she's going to have a job on her hands looking after me.
You're running for two charities, but
yes,
you have been incredibly charitable through your life, to
yeah,
the point where you and Larry, your husband, you've been fostering children.
Yes, we fostered, I can't put an actual number on it, but we fostered over 80 children coming through our doors. I always call my house with the house with the revolving door, because one child goes out and another one comes in. But you know what, we really enjoyed it, and we give those children 120% of our time, and I hope that to please God that we set them on a good journey in life. And I hope sometimes they think of us, a lot of them are growing up now. I always think of them. So yes, and I always feel like that foster parents go through a grieving process when a child leaves them. I always did anyway. So, and I think if you take a child into your home, you must give that child 100% and treat them as you would treat your own. And I think that was my motto, and hopefully it has worked.
Okay. Well, you've given an awful lot of love and support to
I do. I really enjoyed looking after the children.
And I'm sure they'll be supporting you as you head for this big 1,000 marathon mark.
Yeah, that's like, it's a bit crazy, but at the same time, it actually is reality.
It's a great achievement,
yes,
an amazing achievement.
Yes.
When this is done,
yes,
are you going to take a break?
No.
What?
I'll keep my running streak up, Martin.
Oh, you're going to go beyond the 2,070 days?
Oh, yeah, of course I am. And I have got a few marathons already booked in November. So that I don't get lazy. I can't get lazy and sit down and do nothing. Like, no, that's not me. I enjoy running so much that I kind of do this, what I call stress-free running. So I'm running and I'm not stressed. And even when I'm running my marathon, I don't want to be stressed. I just want to enjoy them. Okay. And at this moment now in time, I'm at that stage of my life where I'm enjoying my marathons. And they give me a focus in life. Every weekend I'm thinking, where am I this weekend? Or where am I going this weekend? So I've been all over the world, Martin, and I haven't driven a car. I can't drive. So I said I've been running all over the world. That's the reason. But I have to say too also, I am very grateful to a lot of my running friends that they know I don't drive. And a lot of them give me lifts and stuff like that. And sometimes I stayed in their house and all that kind of stuff. So there's a good kind of camaraderie between all the runners. We help each other. You know, we're a good bunch of people.
Well, yours is a great story. It really is.
Thanks.
I haven't run for a long time, so this morning has been pretty good for me.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm able to get back to the car.
No, come on, let's run back, Martin.
Do we have to?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, come on, let's give it a go. One more time.
Come on then, all right.
Let's go. Okay.
Which way? Oh, this way.
This way. Are you all right, Martin?
Fair to middling, to be honest with you, Collette. I'm starting to wane.
You've only run 300 metres, for God's sake, Martin.
Collette, don't give me a hard time. This isn't easy.
You can do it. You can do it. That's what you say when you're running the marathon. You can do it.
You're like Isterbrack there.
Don't you know it? Without the saddle.
What an incredible woman, Martin.
She's an incredible woman. And I asked her about the wall. I said, what happens when you hit the wall? She says, just run through it or climb over it.
I love
the
fact, by the way, her daughter Jacqueline's running with her as well.
Yeah. Listen, an incredible woman. And she only started in her mid-40s. Congratulations, Collette.
Best of luck today.
OK.
All right, still to come. They were the talk of Europe back in May and became our highest placing entry of the 21st century. Bambie Thug will be here.
And I'll be getting my hands dirty with some spooky Halloween science experiments. The whole family can try at home. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's coming up on 11 and you're watching Ireland AM. Thanks for staying with us.
Now, next up, still to come, Crown the Witch. They were the talk of Europe back in May, and the reason Ireland received our highest Eurovision placing since the year 2000. Bambie Thug is here.
And just in time for Halloween, we've got a whole host of zombies, spooky ghosts and Hugh Grant in a very sinister-looking cardigan. That's all to come on our big telly preview.
'Tis the season to be scared, and who better to teach us some fantastic Halloween experiments than Mark the Size Guy. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, guys. I have so many cool things lined up. I love Halloween, one of the best holidays ever. So we're going to have some things you can do at home, create your own Halloween decorations. You're going to make some slime, some oobleck. We're going to wreck the gaff, and then I've got some dry ice, which you can see. We're going to make some very spooky and very kind of nice Halloween-themed things. So,
loving the sound of that. All right, let's check in on your Sunday papers, and starting with the Sunday Independent. Its front page reads, "Woman in Stanley complains Sinn Féin is protecting itself." The paper goes on to report that the woman whose complaint led to an internal inquiry into former Sinn Féin TD Brian Stanley has accused the party of protecting itself by referring the case to An Garda Síochána without consulting her.
On the front of the Business Post this morning, it leads with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil on track for an overall majority. It writes that the two parties are on course to return to government without the need for the Green Party, with support for the two parties combined now at 43%.
The Sunday Times opens with coalition split on housing as election looms. It reports that Fine Gael and the Greens accuse Fianna Fáil of refusing to approve housing targets for the next 5 years.
On to the tabloids, and the Irish Mail on Sunday leads with "The public no longer feels safe in our cities." It writes the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, has revealed that he wants Fianna Fáil to take over the Department of Justice and to set up a new dedicated transport police force if successfully returned after a general election.
The Sun on Sunday opens with the headline, "Cops told Kyran is dead." The paper reports that at least one person from Kyran Durnan's family has come forward and told cops the 8-year-old is dead.
The Irish Sunday Mirror leads with "Catfish killer should get death penalty." It reports that catfish killer Alexander McCartney deserves the death penalty, a friend of his schoolgirl victim said yesterday.
And finally, the Sunday World puts Stevie G's cousin in bomber gun plot on its front page. It writes that convicted cocaine dealer Uncle Bobby Gerard helped Kavanagh hatch bizarre bid to reduce sentence after meeting in UK prison.
All right, the marathon is on.
Oh, it's on.
Lots of your photos coming in. Thanks for them.
Yes. Now, first up, Pamela says, "Hi guys, I'd love to give a shout out to my husband and brother-in-law running the Dublin City Marathon today. Bucket list and all that. Look at the boys there, all the family there. Killaloo and County Clare." That's from Pamela, Annabelle, Cara and Ella.
But they never told us who the lads are.
But we saw them
saw a picture of them. Anyway, good luck to them. And Pamela, thanks for getting in touch. Breda was in touch as well. "Best of luck to my son Kieran Dunn. First marathon, doing it for men's mental health."
Yeah, look at Kieran there in the kitchen.
Well done, Kieran.
He's not in the kitchen now.
No. Probably wishes he was.
Yeah. Nessa says, "Best of luck to everyone in LSA Donabate running in the running club this morning at Dublin City Marathon. You're all amazing." Look at all the gang there.
Imagine getting caught behind them. And you're trying to get your best time.
Absolutely.
And all of LSA are in front of you.
And the weather's on their side this morning. I know it's breaking in around 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon, so It's looking good at the moment.
Tanya, Millie, May and Annie want to wish best of luck to my husband Joe Riley from Walterstown Athlone, running the Dublin Marathon today.
Look at.
Well, you've got a whole team behind you.
There's Joe there. Look at him there, ready to go, ready to rock and roll. Best of luck today, Kerry Ann Cully. You got this. That comes in from Natalie and all the crew tuned in.
Swords Women's Shed. Good morning, Derek. Good luck, everyone. Is what the message here from the Swords Women's Shed. I'm sure there's plenty of their friends taking part in the marathon today. And lastly, Lewis, could you please wish Venetia Quick and Andy Preston from Dublin's Q102, who are running the Dublin City Marathon. They're doing it for Jigsaw, which is a fantastic cause. And Venetia's done quite a few marathons over the last while. She was in talking to us about her marathon participation last year. So yes, good luck to both of you today. Yes. And a special mention as well to Patricia. She's watching us. She's in Donabate and she's not feeling 100% today. No. So we wish you a speedy recovery.
But we think of Rory Stories as well, as I am. He's running this morning. Rory Stories is out on the road as well at the moment.
After the break, we've some bingeable shows for Halloween and our TV preview, so don't go anywhere.
All right, welcome back, Funcherash. Good day on the now. Our TV preview is looking scarier than ever this week with zombies, goose goals, and the sinister Hugh Grant all making the lineup. Here to run us through it all is now a man who's watched it all and got so scared he actually went grey.
It'll do it to you, yeah. This time of the year.
Killian, is that natural?
All natural, yeah. Yeah. I should probably do a collab with Just for Men. I'll come back next week. Pitch black hair, like Lego hair.
It looks great. It suits you. Anyway, we're kicking off with Generation Z, Channel 4 tonight.
This looks like a bit of crack. It is a perfect little series to binge on the lead up to Halloween and around this festive season if you're into it. Not too scary, just good fun. It's Channel 4 kind of comedy drama. Essentially, an army convoy with some radioactive material are making their way through a sleepy town in the UK. They crash and this oozes out. And what it does is it turns all of the old age pensioners in this little town into zombies who are feeding on the young teens. And it is brilliant because it gives an opportunity for older actors who are usually cast in roles of just having tea and scone in the corner of a scene, get to be front and centre on a series like this. And the crack, I'd say, they had making this, and you can see it in the crack in their performances. There is quite a lot of gore and gruesomeness in it, but it's not a total fright that'll keep you up all night long. It is just a good bit of crack.
I mean, as you said, it's the older generation front and centre there, right? Look at them, they're great, they're having a great time.
Absolutely, and like feeding on it, and it's great because it's not written by these young teeny boppers who are writing it through the perspective of the teenagers. It's kind of written through older eyes. So then the version of the teenagers we get are the version of teenagers that older people seem to be perceived in. So no, it's really good and a bit of crack. It's just a good bit of fun if you fancy something that's not too heavy but is still a bit spooky and scary for this.
Yeah, now we
say
took its inspiration from post-nuclear Holocaust movie Threads on this one.
Yeah, I mean, loose inspiration, obviously, but no, it is. It's a bit of crack. And Channel 4 do these things really well. They do have fun with it. Johnny Vegas is in it, and he again is just a character on screen. I love watching him and anything he does. So yeah, it's a good one. So the first of the episodes drops tonight, actually 9 o'clock, and there's 6 episodes in this, so it's not a huge, big, long series.
Yeah, that'll keep you going right through the Halloween, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, sounds like a good one. Next up, we're moving on to The Diplomat, Netflix season 2.
Yeah, season 1 of this I absolutely adored. This has a beautiful mix of this kind of international politics with some espionage stuff. There's underhanded stuff. There's government and then there's the dark government that operates, and all of that crack is unravelled in season 1. Season 2, I don't want to give too much away if you haven't seen season 1 yet, because I would highly recommend jumping on Netflix and catching up on the first season before the second season drops. Kerry Russell essentially plays a woman who finds herself an international diplomat. She becomes the US ambassador based in the UK, and then over the course of season 1, she discovers certain things that lead to a certain event, and the event is what finishes season 1, and we pick that up off in season 2. Again, don't want to go, spoiler heavy at all on this, because it is a real treat if you haven't seen season 1 yet.
Yeah, now for season 1, for the first series, in fact, Russell was nominated for a couple of awards.
Kerry Russell is amazing in this. Yeah, I loved her in the Americas. I mean, I've loved her since 8 Days a Week in 1997, and any lads out there will know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that movie. There is a particular scene in that movie that made me the man I am today. Yeah, she's brilliant, and she still is stellar on screen. And she plays a really good. She plays a woman who in the first season she's married to a very strong man, but she, in her own right, through the course of season 1, finds her own strength and is well able for that. I think season 2 is going to pick up and take off from there. The people behind this are the same people who have brought us the likes of Grey's Anatomy and The West Wing, so they're really good at writing these, episodic series. Now, unfortunately, there's only 6 episodes in a season. I would love if there was many more, like Grey's Anatomy, but it's just not the way the streamers work. They work a little bit slower, which is why we've had to wait so long for season 2.
And that's dropping this Thursday.
This Thursday, yeah.
Okay,
Netflix.
that should be a good watch. Right, Paris Has Fallen. We're heading to Prime Video next.
So this is the TV adaptation of the Has Fallen series. So we've had 3 movies that have fallen. We had Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, Angel Has Fallen. And they were all, they had their fan base. Gerard Butler was in them and played this Secret Service agent. And again, it's in the world of kind of, governmental agencies, MI6, the CIA, all the stuff that happens behind the scenes when in this series there is a terrorist attack in France, in Paris, and then it's about these international agencies having to work together to try and uncover this huge, bigger conspiracy in time before it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, if you love that kind of Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne movies, all that sort of crack, that kind of behind the scenes, like James Bond but a bit realer, if you know what I mean, then this has the potential, the intellectual property, the IP of this has the potential to grow legs. Paris Has Fallen is this season. The writers have already said this is something that could be Rome Has Fallen, Dublin Has Fallen, so they can take this all across Europe and the world. And a part of the series, one of the stars of the series, is the city they're set in. So the fact that they could change it up season on season is you know, obviously as a part of the bigger pitch for Amazon, this is what they were thinking.
Yeah, and you were saying that, so obviously, like producer Anne Sherrill, she has really high hopes for this.
Absolutely. This is something that, like, Amazon have the money, so, you know, they have the potential to sign a multi-season deal with this. So looking forward to seeing how it translates. There is no confirmation over Dara Butler being involved at all in the TV adaptation, but if season 1 goes really well and the checkbooks come out for season 2, you could find himself there as well.
8 episodes in this proper binge watch.
Yeah, I think so. This will be a doozy, and Amazon are doing, they're dumping all these so you can get stuck into it if you want.
Okay.
And again, look, potential if it takes off. This is the world. That's the kind of world that I love. The kind of Jack Ryan stuff. That sort of, I love all that CIA espionage kind of crack. So yeah, it's a good one for me.
And that drops this Friday. All right, The Boy That Never Was, Virgin Media on demand.
So this, I mean, the story. It's based on a book, an absolutely horrific concept, brilliant, albeit horrific. A young family are on holidays in North Africa. There's an earthquake and their little baby boy is missing in the rubble, presumed dead. And then they come back to Ireland to try and pick up their life. And years later, the father is convinced he sees Dylan, their son, at a train station holding somebody else's hand. And then this becomes this whole psychological thriller of, is he seeing things? Is there something more to this? He feels he needs answers. He's never gotten over it. And there's the interrelationship between the mom and dad of Dylan, how that's still turbulent and not quite, you know, where it needs to be. As you can imagine, trying to get over something like that, you probably never would. And then it's this dad struggle to try and find his truth. And that leads him all over the world, back to North Africa. And it's a twisty and turny sort of psychological thriller that unearths a whole world that you wouldn't even think exists.
Yeah, no, the TV drama series was directed by Hannah Quinn, and there's a great lineup in terms of actors as well, including Colin Morgan and Tony O'Rourke.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, you can see the way even it's shot aesthetically, it's beautiful. It looks like it could be a really good one. And again, 4 episodes, so it's not Game of Thrones we're talking about here. It's not going to take you years to get through it. You can get stuck into it on Virgin TV on demand.
Okay, great. And that's from Tuesday. Heretic then, in cinemas this Thursday.
So this looks...
What's your verdict?
Look, straight away, people are either going to be like, I'm into a bit of this, or they're going to be like, absolutely no way, I'll give it a miss, because it is a spooky, freaky, Hugh Grant is in this era of his career where he doesn't care and he's picking roles because he wants to have fun with them, and he plays the creepiest man. The character's name is Mr. Reed, and it's essentially 2 Mormons called to the door to, you know, try and convert, as they do. Have you heard of the Book of Mormon? And usually they probably get the door slammed in their face, but he says, oh yes, girls, come on in. And they're thinking, oh, we could convert somebody, but in reality what they're stepping into is a world you do not want to be involved in, because in order to get out, there's some stuff they have to do that is like the Saw movies with that whole psychological thriller side of things. And as I said, Hugh Grant's character in this is eerie, but it's just a reflection on how bloody good he is at what he does.
Oh, sounds great. Anyway, thank you so much, Cillian, for joining us here this morning. After the break, Eurovision icon Bambie Thug unveils the magic behind their iconic looks. You won't want to miss it. Happy haircut.
Thanks for staying with us. Our next guests screamed their way to the Eurovision finals and got us the best result for Ireland in 24 years.
Yes, and now they're coming home for the Irish leg of their first tour, Crown the Witch. But before we chat to Bambie Thug right here in the studio, let's take a look at their most recent music video for Fantastic.
I got your shivers down my back again. Will I regret it if I let him in? I don't know whether he's a friend or foe, but something tells me that he's got to go. I think it's magic. I guess it's magic, magic. Now I'm alive to see you needing any histamine. I wash my hands of you, baby, now I'm listening. I saw the signs, now my vision's going crystal clean. My acid rain coming I'm going cold, you can burn in my hellfire. No, I don't bite, but I'm ready to snap. I won't dance.
Whatever about a video, I want an animated series.
I know, so do I. My dream.
That looked cool.
So,
fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy. Holly Lag and Marco Pavoni, you worked with them on that video to create the concept.
Yeah, so Holly's my sister, and she did the whole creative direction on it and the storyline, the storyboard for it, and Marco Pavone did the animation. So I was on tour at the time, so I was just like, I want
just
this.
dropped yesterday.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
I watched it into the early morning hours.
Yeah,
Great.
and it has our dance routine in it, so that's really cool as well, which we've been teaching everyone.
Okay, so there's a dance to go with it.
Yep.
So this is going to take over Halloween.
Yes.
And you're afraid of the Darklings are in that as well, Stern in the.
Yeah, so they supported me on the European leg, and there's lots of hidden like Easter eggs from our tour in there. There's on the side of the car it says rent, ride, repent, because we saw that on a car, but it actually just said rent, ride, repeat. But we were we found it very funny on tour, so I was out putting that on my car in the video.
Just
lots of little things.
Change it to repent. It works. Okay. Look, you burst onto the scene earlier this year, like as into all our worlds, when we saw the National Song Contest, and then Eurovision was just a different level. Did it feel like a different level for you?
Yeah, I think actually this year you've seen kind of a lot of different eras maybe in so many few months. Just the growth, I think, from the Eurosong stage to the Eurovision stage to even back on the Late Late Show Friday. Just been morphing and growing, and just so grateful of. You know, I look at the Eurovision performance and I think I look about 12 years old on it. I'm like, that doesn't even look like me.
But you've evolved so much from then, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a big year of learning, a big year of growth, big milestones, and I'm just super grateful. And I kind of haven't really taken it all in yet, I don't think.
Back to May. Obviously, we all watched you on the stage. What a fantastic performance, I suppose, and the best ranking we've had in 24 years. How does that make you feel?
Pretty good. Very proud, very proud. And yeah, I mean, my team were incredible, you know, and RTE, we cracked the whip and they let us do whatever I said. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, but Eurovision has become a load of mini shows within a show.
Yeah.
And you gave us an incredible performance. There were lots of other performers there too, and you've made friends, you say, who will be friends for life.
Yeah.
So it was a really good experience for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like Sylvester from Lithuania, we were like those two naughty kids in class, you know, and love Sylvester so much. Saw him in Lithuania, saw Nemo when I was in Zurich, and
you were very pally with Nemo, weren't you?
Yeah.
Nemo actually handed over your crown at the end.
Yeah, someone had to be crowned. Someone needed the crown that I brought. Yeah, but Nemo actually lives in London now, so I get to see them a lot more.
An awful lot. Right.
And yeah, I saw quite a few of them on tour, actually, which was really nice.
Because it's not just a couple of days.
No, it's not. And I didn't even know that going into it. You know, I didn't know that there was all the pre-parties and the pre-shows and the amount of rehearsals and the extra shows that you did for the audiences. It was a lot of work, but I love performing. You know?
Just your popularity has risen so much. So when Thursday comes, right, if your doorbell goes and there are kids dressed as Bambie Thug, will they be getting extra treats?
Definitely.
Because I
They'll get the whole bowl.
I can imagine kids watching this morning and seeing you and going, that's what I want to dress up. That's my costume.
Yeah, actually, I've had a lot of... I've been tagged in a lot of videos online of socials, people at Halloween parties already dressed as me.
Okay.
Which is really, really cool. Sometimes I'm like, you look so identical, like even down to like the tiny details on the dresses and things. So it's amazing. I mean,
they hit pause.
Yeah.
And they start sketching.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your makeup and your costume designs. I know you've worked very closely with Claire Garvey over the last year or so. I mean, where does your inspiration come from?
Everywhere and everything. I mean, anything fantastical, cartoons. I mean, we did model my outfit a bit on like the Pan, the King of the Forest, and Maleficent, and old Irish pagan and lots of horns. I love pointy. I love black. You know, anything dark, anything mystical.
Yeah,
anything that
and
kind of obscure.
Speaking of the darkness, because I suppose that's where you're sigil magic.
Yeah.
That is your thing. So explain to viewers at home what it is.
Sigil magic is basically where you take a poem or a spell or an affirmation that you've written, and usually for me it's like very, very personal and things I need to get out. And then what I do is I get rid of the repeating letters and the vowels, and I'm left with certain letters, maybe 2 or 3, and I make a symbol out of those. And then I'll put those places where I want to be like subconsciously reminded of the intention of that.
Okay.
So like witchcraft is very much just about physical acts of intention.
Okay, physical acts of intention, but not negative acts.
No,
because you
because
believe
the
that
rule-
comes back on you.
Well, that's the rule of energy,
Yeah.
you know? Anything you put out comes back to you tenfold. So why would I put out anything bad? I don't want that back.
And as a witch, it comes back by 3, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying you're manifesting, it's that deeper level. But let's talk about the symbolism. Let's say, for example, in your music videos, do you feel that a lot of people find that quite dark?
I think people who don't understand it find it dark and who are taught that it's negative, but also it's not. Like, it's not. I mean, Ireland is pagan.
Yes.
And pagan isn't dark. It's all worshipping and being thankful for nature and moon and energy, and it's all love. Like, I mean, witchcraft is very, very much based in compassion.
So, like, there'd be a lot of people that would say there's reference to Satan.
Oh, like my pentagram?
Exactly.
Pentagram is basically the human body, you know, and it's all the elements. It's just protection. It's not summoning anything, you know. If I could summon demons, that would be cool. But, you know, I can't.
But you're saying you're using you're drawing on good energy is what you're about.
Definitely. Like, the world is bad enough, you know. We should just be pushing out good love.
Yeah. In your music, there's spells, there's hexes, there's all kinds of things in there. And that's purposeful for what reason?
For my own, I guess...
like if you're feeling angry, if
I'm feeling angry, then I'm putting it into my music.
You can put it into the music.
Because I'm not an angry person. Like, I don't know if I can express anger except through music, which maybe I should be able to do that, but you know...
people have been doing that for years, so why not?
Yeah, why not? It's a release, it gets it out, and it makes something, you know, that sounds really good. So win-win. I get rid of it and you get some art.
In the world. Can we talk about your gigs? You have the Irish Show, Crown the Witch, the Academy.
I do. Tonight, it's an all-ages gig, so I'm super excited for that. And then we have Belfast and back to the Academy for Halloween night.
Yes, Roisin Dove then in Galway.
Yes, Roisin, and then we finish in Cork City.
Like, what an incredible way, Cork City Hall for your last gig.
I know.
You've been touring all over Europe the last couple of months. It's been incredible.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I feel like my concept of time is completely shattered, but I love it. It's great.
We have our editor, by the way, Julianne Doyle. She's our editor, that's why she is a massive fan. She's watching outside.
Hi, Julianne.
All right, we're going to hang on to you for a little bit longer because we're heading to... We've got some spooky experiments to carry out.
Yes, and as a reminder, you can find tickets to Bambie Thug's upcoming Irish gigs at ticketmaster.ie. You won't want to miss it. OK, still to come. Mark the Science Guy has some spectacular experiments in store for us, and our favourite Ouija pop singer is staying for them too.
The snow was falling faintly through the universe, and faintly falling on all the living and the dead. Ingrid, do you think I need to say goodbye to my closest friends?
I think you should do whatever you want to do.
I will not go out in mortifying anguish.
I don't know what to say.
I'm hoping you'll say yes.
Yes to what?
You're gonna need a lawyer.
No, this is an absolute secret.
I'll sleep with my door open, and the day that you find it closed is the day it's already happened.
Do you hear them? It's daytime. And you're alive.
All right, welcome back. Get ready for some midterm magic with a spectacular educational twist. Mark the science guy, who we love, is here with some Halloween fun that's bursting with science. And guess who stuck around? Bambie, still here. And is this your favourite time of year?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Lovely. He's already revealed that he loves Halloween.
Love Halloween.
I feel like as an Irish person, you have to love Irish.
It's ours.
Yeah, it's
Time for
ours.
mischief.
The Americans took it.
I know.
Easy, Martin.
But it's ours.
We'll just give them the look. It's ours, leave it alone. What are we doing?
Okay, so it is midterm, but it's Halloween, and I love Halloween. It's a great chance to do lots of different science experiments. Get messy, you can get away with it. It's Halloween, so things are going to get a little messy here.
Okay, and these are things that generally we have in our house.
Yeah, in your cupboard, in your kitchen. Yeah, you should have them. If
What
not,
are we
pop to the shops.
making first?
Going to start off. So I have. We're going to make our own Halloween decoration. So it's going to get kind of simple. You're doing this with me, right?
Yeah, I'm
Fantastic.
so on this.
Have you seen the nails?
Don't on the nails. That's a surprise. We're going to start off simple, then move across and get a tad more dangerous. But this is really cool, really simple, because it needs really simple ingredients. You got one?
Yeah.
I got one. So this is your own homemade DIY lava lamp.
All right.
So you could stick it in the window beside your pumpkin, make it extra spooky. Maybe not as cool as this, but this is the science way to do it. So we have some oil and water in the bottle. So I've put them in ahead of time because these two liquids don't mix. So the oil floats on top of the water. So I've just put that in, they've settled. Now what I want us to do is drop some bits of food colouring down into it. So I'll let you choose what colours you want.
Okay,
and food colouring, you get it anywhere. Yeah. Go crazy. Get as much as you want. I'm gonna go for some like purple, little few drops down, and you'll see that it sinks all the way to the bottom, starts mixing with the water again. So we're talking about densities here, liquids of different densities. The less dense one floating, top of the more dense. And then you have those fizzy tablets. You know the fizzy tablets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens when you put them in water?
They bubble up.
They bubble up. And do you know the name of the gas that's released that's causing the bubbling?
Tell me.
Is it carbon?
Carbon dioxide, not monoxide. We're good. We're on that. It's carbon dioxide. So
Some of that green.
Yeah. Oh, you want some green? I want some black as well. So we're going to grab one of the tablets, break it in half, drop it into the water. It's going to start fizzing, releasing the carbon dioxide. The bubbles are going to go to the bottom.
If we put a full one in, are we getting a shower?
If you put a full one in, you leg it and just jump into the air when I tell you to do so. Okay? All right. Half a tablet and just drop it in. And what you're going to see is the tablet's going to dissolve, releasing the carbon dioxide bubbles. I'm going to drop another one in because I'm.
Oh, right, he has dropped.
Yeah. So step back.
See you in the car park,
Step
right?
back.
Bye.
So you can even put some more food colouring. So what it's going to do is it's going to grab some of the little bits of food colouring, bring it up. That carbon dioxide is going to reach to the top, burst, and the food colouring is going to settle back down again. So you have this kind of dual carriageway of lamp motion. Nice. Yours is way better than mine.
No, yours is better than mine. It's a much better colour.
I didn't want to say.
It's a mutual appreciation lava lamp society we have going on here today.
Can I put more of these in though?
All right.
I don't know about that. No. See, I'm.
All right. So, but this is the cool thing about science. Your experiment, I'm covered in food colouring already. But once the kind of action settles down, you can just get another fizzy tablet, pop it in, and then you have a whole night of Halloween. And this one's not as messy. This is kind of super simple and fun. That's pretty good.
That's lovely, actually.
I like backlighting it as well.
I'm a bit besotted with this.
Oh, right. Well, there's more. So
yeah, okay.
You can put a backlight behind it or under it, and it really lights it up quite nice as well.
That's your own lava lamp.
Your own DIY lava lamp. This, however, is going to get a bit messy. One of my favourite things of all time. It's gloopy. It's called oobleck. It's a strange liquid. I got some here.
Oobleck is a goalkeeper.
No, he's
Nice for Atletico.
Good keeper, by the way.
Yeah, good keeper.
So this is a very strange liquid, but so easy to make because all you need is water and corn flour. So I've pre-made one, but I want you to make the other one.
Okay, stunning. How come yours is blue? Did you add food colouring?
I added food colouring.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is dump that into the bowl. I'm going to get mine ready just to show you what hopefully... So I'd say like 3/4. This is something, again, you can experiment with. The exact amounts don't need to be...
Bambie.
Yeah.
Bambie's nails have not come through the glove.
Sorry. Do you think that's not?
That's perfect.
Okay,
so what you only need to remember for this is it's 2 parts corn flour to 1 part water. Okay. So I'm going to give you a bit of water.
Okay.
And slowly start putting it in and get your hands in then and start kind of mixing it around just like this.
Okay.
And it's going to form a strange kind of odd liquid. So keep putting it in nice.
Doing this?
So this is a type of liquid called a non-Newtonian fluid. You don't need to remember that. So most things are solid, liquid, or gas. This one is a liquid, as you can see, but it's a liquid that changes when you put pressure onto it. So if I was to slap that, what do you think will happen?
Well,
mine's a bit
we'd all be
watery.
wearing it. Yeah.
I can put more
Okay.
So watch this. So it is a liquid, but if I put pressure on it, it doesn't splash. When you put pressure to it, it turns into a solid. If I go slowly, gloopy liquid, pressure, solid. So this is a different type of liquid, and it's so fun to make. You can grab it up on your hands, you can move it together. That's nice.
Is it?
Bit more. I'm gonna get in with you. Let's teamwork on this.
Okay.
Bit more water. Okay. So this is one of the things you can experiment with. Get it around. Perfect. Give us a bit more.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you put a bit of food colouring in that?
can you
Put a
If
dash
that stays
in.
there for
This
a
is
few
looking
minutes,
good.
I'll
This is
actually
feeling
put fish
good.
in that.
Right, I want it to be red.
All right,
Looks
nice.
like papa.
Right.
Perfect. This is looking good. Get around. Get your hands in there. I think this is yes. This is good.
Wait,
Good work, by the way.
wait. That's pink.
That's not cheap stuff. Would you
Well,
relax?
do you know what? You had me on the show and you put it in front of me, so I'm using it all.
Yeah.
You'll be getting an invoice after this.
There's going to be trouble.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, gorgeous.
So get in now. Bring it up. Make it sink and drop like a liquid. Now put pressure on it. I'm going to stand back.
Oh, yeah. Stop.
Nice.
It works.
See?
Right.
Cool.
Who were you thinking of?
Yeah.
Who are you thinking of right now, Bambie?
Take it.
I don't know, actually.
But it felt good.
Well, that's it. That's oobleck. It's a liquid, but when you put a pressure on it, it's a solid.
That is
That's
just
so cool.
Important
Kids, if you're
thing.
doing this at home, you're going to have great crack.
Important thing to remember. This doesn't go down the sink. It goes in the bin.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Yes. It'll clog your sink.
Can you eat it?
No, please don't. Never eat your science.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not unless you absolutely.
But it's cornstarch.
Don't eat your science.
What
It's
if
a
I
solid
put like
rule.
some nice herbs in it with the taste?
Don't
They have
eat your
they have a
science.
point.
Don't eat your
cornstarch,
science.
food colouring,
Yeah.
water.
Never eat your science.
Okay.
Rule one.
Never
That's what they
eat your
tell you in
science.
college.
Okay.
Never eat
No,
your
Put it down
science.
the sink. Okay.
Yes.
I think we have barely one.
Excellent.
One more.
Check this out. So this is dry ice, solid carbon dioxide. So I'm going to get a little bowl, and Bambi, I want you to grab little bits of it, but make sure you place this protective glove on you as well, and give me all the gloves this time. Because if you place this, it's solid carbon dioxide. So it's at -76. So you can grab some little bits, put it into the test tubes. It turns straight from a solid into a gas. So that's carbon dioxide gas and water vapor.
You're loving this, Bambi.
Look at it.
I love anything crafty, anything that I get to do.
Well,
My
we can
hands.
tell that art and craft is your thing.
But this is, you'll see it in movies a lot. It's solid carbon dioxide. Dropping it in, it's warm water, it starts turning from a solid into a gas, and that's the carbon dioxide gas.
It has to be warm water, though.
Warm water helps, yes.
Not
yes.
boiling water.
Not boiling water. So I've got another bit here. Watch this pumpkin, which I think you were complimenting my pumpkin carving skills.
I was very
Oh,
good.
thank you. I'm going to place some warm water into the pumpkin. Bambi, I want you to grab a huge amount of this. So grab a big handful.
Can I just
place
pour
it
that in?
the bowl. Yeah, go for it.
Where?
Now watch this. Put the lid on the top, and there you have your dry ice
Look at
pumpkin.
that.
Check that out.
We are rocking and rolling.
We're not finished.
Okay.
I got one last thing.
We don't have time.
One last
We're
thing.
out of time.
This, you've heard of TPing gaffs.
Yeah.
Watch this. This is my own homemade leaf blower. Check that out.
For
Using
more
science.
scientific experiments, head on over to Mark the Science Guy on Instagram. What have we got on Monday style at the end, Derek?
Yeah.
Come back holiday Monday tomorrow. But coming up on Tuesday, they turn their friendship into the perfect podcast partnership. Marie Ronan and Jenny Kelly will be dropping by. We'll be meeting the woman who has a PhD in RIP.ie. Plus, we're reviewing the season's spine-tingling must-read books for the Halloween, Martin.
Yeah, and you'll be travelling as well, heading off to meet ghosts from the capital's past. Tuesday morning, 7 o'clock. See you then. Bye-bye.
Slán.